My dear brothers and sisters, there comes a moment when God calls you out of the noise, out of the chaos, and into a deeper place within yourself. A moment when He says, focus on yourself and stay silent. Not because nothing is happening, but because everything is happening. In the silence, He is shaping you. In the stillness, He is strengthening you. And in this season, your greatest transformation will not come from what you say, but from what you allow God to do within you. When God says focus on yourself and stay silent, He is not calling you into isolation. He is calling you into alignment. He is summoning you into a place where the noise of the world can no longer compete with the clarity of His voice. There are moments in your life when heaven issues a divine pause, a sacred stillness, not to punish you, not to delay you, but to recalibrate you. This is the place where God begins to work on the inner chambers of your being, where He begins to touch the places you have ignored, where He begins to strengthen the areas you thought were too broken to be strengthened. When God commands silence, it is because He is orchestrating something inside you that requires your full participation and your full attention. In this season, God is pulling you inward so He can expand you outward. He is dismantling the old patterns, the old fears, the old cycles that have kept you entangled in unnecessary battles. You must understand that silence is not the absence of movement. Silence is the presence of strategy. Silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom. Silence does not mean nothing is happening. Silence means the most important things are happening where human eyes cannot see and where human hands cannot interfere. There are certain works of God that are too delicate to be performed in public. There are certain operations of the Spirit that require privacy, secrecy, and stillness. When God says, focus on yourself and stay silent, He is bringing you into that sacred operation. Many people want elevation, but they do not want separation. Many desire visibility, but they resist the hidden place. But the hidden place is where God rewrites your inner narrative, where He detoxes your mind from the opinions that have shaped you, where He breaks the power of old insecurities, where He dismantles every lie that contradicts your divine identity. Silence is the workshop of transformation. Focus is the tool that chisels away everything in you that is misaligned with the next version of yourself. When God leads you into silence, He is protecting the blueprint of your destiny from voices that might contaminate it, distort it, or prematurely criticize what God is still constructing. In this season, you must learn to be comfortable with being misunderstood. You must learn to be comfortable with not announcing every move, not explaining every shift, not defending every decision. When God says focus, He is calling you to steward your own energy, your own mind, your own emotional landscape with intentionality. Focus is not merely about attention. It is about stewardship. It is about deciding what deserves access to your thoughts and what no longer qualifies for entrance. It is about pruning your social circles, not out of pettiness, but out of purpose. It is about trimming away conversations that drain your spiritual vitality, habits that dilute your discipline, and environments that suffocate your growth. God is working on you from the inside out, and He does not need background noise interrupting the process. You may feel like nothing is happening because you cannot see the progress yet, but God often works like a seed underground. The seed is silent, the soil is silent, but beneath that silence, there is pressure, expansion, germination, and the formation of an entirely new life. Do not underestimate what God is doing in you simply because outsiders cannot see it yet. Growth in silence is still growth. Becoming in silence is still becoming. Transformation in silence is still transformation. In this time of focusing on yourself, God is teaching you to hear Him without the interference of external voices. He is training your spiritual sensitivity, sharpening your discernment, and heightening your inner awareness. He is teaching you how to distinguish His whisper from your worries, His instruction from your impulses, His guidance from your guesswork. When everything around you becomes still, your inner world becomes amplified and you begin to hear the echoes of divine wisdom rising within you. You begin to recognize patterns that once went unnoticed. You begin to see connections that were once blurred. You begin to understand cycles you used to repeat blindly. Silence becomes the sanctuary where God expands your self-awareness. This is the moment where God exposes what you have been avoiding. He brings the buried issues to the surface, not to shame you, but to free you. He reveals the wounds you have normalized, the fears you have justified, the habits you have excused. This season is not about perfection, it is about purification. It is about confronting the parts of yourself that you have outgrown but still carry. It is about recognizing the internal barriers that have hindered your advancement. When God says focus on yourself, He is inviting you to partner with Him in the renewal of your mind, the restoration of your heart, and the strengthening of your spirit. You may feel the urge to speak, to explain, to justify, to announce, to react, but silence is your shield in this season. Silence is your strategy. Silence is your spiritual insulation. Not everyone deserves access to the process God is taking you through. Not everyone can understand the depth of the transformation you are undergoing. Not everyone is qualified to speak into your evolution. Some people assess you based on who you were, not who you are becoming. Some people analyze you based on old patterns and old seasons that no longer define you. Silence frees you from the obligation of performing for others while God is reconstructing your identity. There will be moments in this journey where the weight of silence feels heavy, where the stillness feels uncomfortable, where the inward work feels overwhelming. But these are the very signs that you are being reshaped, reformed, and refined. Healing is rarely loud. Breakthrough is rarely noisy. Deliverance is rarely dramatic. Often God moves in the whispers, in the pauses, in the quiet alignments of your inner world. This sacred silence becomes the place where God upgrades your thinking, resets your boundaries, reconfigures your self-worth, and reestablishes your authority. As you focus inward, your confidence begins to rise again. Not the confidence built on external validation, but the confidence rooted in divine truth. You begin to reclaim your power, not by force, but by clarity. You begin to rediscover your voice, not by speaking louder, but by understanding deeper. You begin to remember who you are beyond the expectations of others, beyond the labels you have worn, beyond the roles you have played. Silence becomes the soil where your authentic self emerges. God is not calling you inward so that you shrink. He is calling you inward so that you expand. He is preparing you for a version of life that the current version of you cannot fully carry. He is fortifying your character, deepening your wisdom, and strengthening your resilience. He is teaching you discipline, not as punishment, but as preparation. Focus becomes the weapon that dismantles distraction. Silence becomes the atmosphere where discipline is born. In this sacred season, you are being equipped with spiritual muscles, emotional maturity, and mental clarity that will sustain you when the next level demands more of you. There are gifts within you that require incubation. There are dreams within you that require protection. There are ideas within you that require quiet to develop. And God is giving you that quiet. He is giving you the space to grow without the pressure of performance. He is giving you the permission to evolve without needing to explain your evolution to anyone. He is giving you the right to prioritize your spiritual wellness, your mental health, your emotional equilibrium, and your divine alignment above anything that competes for your attention. This is the season where God teaches you to walk away from unnecessary battles, to release the need to respond to every provocation, to detach from the voices that seek to distract you. Not every comment deserves a reaction. Not every situation deserves your energy. Not every conflict requires your involvement. When God says stay silent, He is protecting you from battles that are beneath your calling and unworthy of your destiny. He is teaching you to reserve your energy for what truly matters. He is showing you how to value peace over proving a point. As you stay silent, God fights for you. As you remain focused, God positions you. As you refuse to be drawn into noise, God elevates you above it. Silence becomes the environment where God displays his power. It becomes the platform where he reveals his timing. It becomes the stage where he prepares you for the unveiling that is to come. There is a version of you emerging in this silent season that will astonish those who underestimated you. There is a clarity forming in you that will guide your decisions for years to come. There is a strength rising in you that will anchor you in future storms. God is not asking you to be silent forever. He is asking you to be silent until the appointed time. He is asking you to focus until the work is complete. He is asking you to trust him with what you cannot articulate, to trust him with what you cannot explain, to trust him with what you cannot yet see. This silence is not empty. It is full of divine intention. It is full of unseen progress. It is full of spiritual construction. And as you surrender to this season, you will find that silence becomes your sanctuary and focus becomes your superpower. When God calls you to withdraw, he is not pulling you away from people. He is pulling you back into yourself. He is pulling you into the core of who you are, into the original blueprint of your existence, into the identity he authored long before life tried to redefine you. There comes a time when God must remove the external voices, the unnecessary energy, the opinions that have layered themselves upon your soul like dust, so he can uncover the truth of who you were always meant to be. This is not the withdrawal of defeat. It is the withdrawal of refinement. It is the sacred retreat where God reshapes your inner structure and restores your spiritual clarity. You cannot become the person God intended while being surrounded by distractions that dilute your authenticity. You cannot hear divine instruction while constantly absorbing human interference. You cannot evolve into your higher identity while being entangled in environments that pull you back into old patterns. Withdrawal is not abandonment. Withdrawal is reorientation. It is the sovereign repositioning of your soul so God can realign your identity with your destiny. There are seasons when God interrupts your normal rhythms because he is preparing you for something that cannot be built on a foundation of noise and confusion. He leads you into solitude because the version of you that is emerging requires inner strength, inner stability, and inner certainty. You cannot carry divine purpose while your identity is being shaped by external circumstances. You cannot step into divine assignment while still being influenced by the fears, doubts, and insecurities of those around you. God needs you alone so he can speak to the parts of you that have been buried under years of survival, responsibility, disappointment, and pressure. When God withdraws you from distractions, he begins the delicate process of reconstructing your sense of self. He confronts the places where you have settled, the places where you have compromised, the places where you have believed less about yourself than what he has spoken. He exposes the internal agreements you have made with insecurity. He challenges the lies you have accepted as truth. He dismantles the narratives that have restricted your self-esteem. He brings you face to face with the forgotten parts of your identity, the pieces of you that you hid to be accepted, the dreams you buried to keep peace, the brilliance you dimmed to make others comfortable. Withdrawal is the environment of revelation. When God removes distractions, he does not do it to empty your life. He does it to reveal what has been overshadowed. He brings you into silence so you can finally hear your own soul speak. He creates space so the buried voice within you can rise again. He removes the noise so you can rediscover your inner wisdom, your inner direction, your inner knowing. The identities you have worn to survive begin to fall away, and the identity he divinely designed begins to surface. There is a version of you that life has not yet met, a stronger you, a wiser you, a more disciplined you, a more discerning you, a more confident you, a more aligned you. But this version can only emerge when the distractions have been removed, when the voices have been silenced, when the unnecessary attachments have been broken. God is not refining you because you are insufficient. He is refining you because you are essential. There is too much in you for God to allow you to remain entangled. There is too much ahead of you for him to allow you to remain unshaped. In the season of withdrawal, God confronts the internal conflicts you ignored. He addresses the fractures you learned to function with. He calls out the old wounds you numbed instead of healing. He surfaces every unresolved emotion, every suppressed memory, every dormant insecurity, not to overwhelm you, but to free you. Refinement requires exposure. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot strengthen what you refuse to confront. You cannot reclaim what you refuse to see. God brings it up so he can bring you out. You may wonder why certain relationships suddenly no longer feel aligned, why certain conversations no longer interest you, why certain environments feel draining, why certain habits suddenly feel heavy. This is not you becoming distant, this is you becoming defined. This is not you turning cold, this is you turning inward. God is shifting your identity, and because your identity is shifting, your appetite is shifting. What once entertained you no longer feeds you. What once satisfied you now feels empty. What once energized you now exhausts you. This is the spiritual evidence that refinement is taking place. The process of refinement requires honesty. God will ask you questions you have avoided. He will challenge the labels you have allowed others to place upon you. He will push you to see the strengths you have minimized. He will reveal the gifts you have dismissed. He will show you the brilliance you convinced yourself you did not possess. Refinement forces you to reevaluate your perception of yourself, not through the lens of your past, not through the lens of your failures, not through the lens of your trauma, but through the lens of divine truth. As God refines you, he removes the residue of experiences that have clouded your identity, the disappointments that made you doubt your worth, the betrayals that made you question your value, the criticism that made you silence your voice, the rejection that made you shrink, the responsibilities that made you forget yourself. He purifies your self-concept, not by erasing your past, but by redefining its meaning. What once broke you now becomes the testimony that strengthens you. What once wounded you now becomes the wisdom that guides you. What once defined you now becomes the evidence of your resilience. When distractions are removed, clarity becomes sharper. You begin to see who you are when you are not performing, who you are when you are not pleasing, who you are when you are not pretending. You begin to recognize the difference between your authentic desires and the desires you adopted from others. You begin to understand the difference between your true purpose and the purposes others projected onto you. You begin to separate your truth from your trauma. In the silence of withdrawal, your identity becomes clearer than it has ever been. This refinement also reveals your boundaries. You begin to understand what you can no longer tolerate, what you can no longer accommodate, what you can no longer compromise. You begin to identify what disturbs your peace and what protects it. You learn to differentiate between connections that help you grow and connections that hold you back. You begin to discern who respects your identity and who only respects your availability. Withdrawal teaches you that you are not obligated to shrink to maintain relationships. You are not required to suppress yourself for acceptance. You are not responsible for carrying people who refuse to grow themselves. Refinement also empowers you to reclaim authority over your own life. When distractions are removed, you realize how much of your identity was shaped by noise. Noise from culture, noise from family, noise from society, noise from fear. You begin to see how often you doubted yourself because somebody else doubted you first. You begin to see how often you abandoned your own potential because someone else's insecurity projected limitations onto you. You begin to see how many dreams you forfeited because the voices around you were louder than the voice within you. Withdrawal silences those external voices so you can finally hear your own. God uses this season to align your identity with your assignment. You cannot fully step into what you are called to do while carrying an identity that contradicts your calling. You cannot lead with authority while seeing yourself through the lens of inadequacy. You cannot build confidently while believing you are unworthy. You cannot influence powerfully while thinking small. God removes distractions so he can heal the parts of you that do not yet believe what he has spoken about you. Refinement is the bridge between your old identity and your new assignment. This process is uncomfortable because it forces you to meet the version of yourself that you have suppressed. It forces you to acknowledge the greatness that you have been afraid to embody. It forces you to take responsibility for your potential. It forces you to stop hiding behind excuses and step into evolution. Distractions made it easy to avoid yourself. Withdrawal removes that option in this season. God is reintroducing you to yourself. He is reintroducing you to your courage, the courage you lost in disappointment, reintroducing you to your creativity, the creativity you buried under routine, reintroducing you to your voice, the voice you muted to maintain peace, reintroducing you to your purpose, the purpose you postponed to survive, reintroducing you to your brilliance, the brilliance you dimmed for acceptance, reintroducing you to your original self, the self he created before life tried to modify your identity. Refinement teaches you that you are not who others said you were. You are not the mistakes you made. You are not the worst moment of your life. You are not the version of yourself you had to become to cope with trauma. You are not the limitations that others projected onto you. You are not the fears that tried to imprison you. Refinement frees you from identities that were never yours to carry. In this period of withdrawal, God gives you permission to reconstruct yourself, to rediscover what you love, what you want, what you value, what you believe, what you aspire to become. You begin to notice what energizes your spirit and what drains it. You begin to prioritize inner peace over external approval. You begin to value purpose over popularity. You begin to choose authenticity over acceptance. Your identity becomes anchored in truth, not noise. And as this refinement deepens, your inner strength becomes unshakable. Your emotional resilience becomes fortified. Your mental clarity becomes sharper. Your spiritual sensitivity becomes heightened. You stop being tossed by opinions. You stop being moved by criticism. You stop being wounded by misunderstanding. You stop being manipulated by expectations. Your identity becomes a foundation, not a question. There are seasons when elevation is not a reward, but a requirement for greater responsibility, greater maturity, and greater alignment. And before God elevates you publicly, he disciplines you privately. Before he expands your influence, he expands your capacity. Before he entrusts you with greater works, he strengthens your focus so you can carry what he is preparing for you without collapsing under its weight. Elevation is never accidental. Elevation is intentional. It is strategic. It is divine. And it requires that your focus be sharpened and your discipline be fortified. Focus is not simply the ability to pay attention. It is the ability to guard your attention. It is the deliberate act of directing your energy toward what matters and refusing to waste your strength on what does not. Distraction is the enemy of elevation. Disorder is the enemy of advancement. Chaos is the enemy of clarity. And in every season before God elevates someone, he trains them in the mastery of focus, because where God is taking you, scattered energy will not sustain you. Where God is leading you, emotional impulsiveness will sabotage you. Where God is positioning you, inconsistency will disqualify you. Elevation requires discipline because discipline is the infrastructure of destiny. Without discipline, opportunities become wasted. Without discipline, blessings become burdens. Without discipline, gifts become dormant. Without discipline, potential becomes unfulfilled. Discipline is the silent force that supports greatness, the unseen engine that drives achievement, the invisible foundation that sustains influence. And God cannot elevate you where your discipline cannot sustain you. This is why God calls you out of distraction. This is why he teaches you silence. This is why he pulls you inward. He is stabilizing your identity so he can strengthen your discipline. He is refining your inner world so he can fortify your outer impact. He is teaching you mastery over your own thoughts, mastery over your own emotions, mastery over your own habits, mastery over your own focus. Because until you master yourself, you cannot master the assignments he is preparing to give you. Elevation is not achieved by talent. It is sustained by discipline. Talent may get you noticed, but discipline keeps you grounded. Talent may open a door, but discipline keeps it open. Talent may create momentum, but discipline builds longevity. There are many who were gifted but were not disciplined, and therefore they were elevated before they were ready. They lost what they were given because they lacked the structure to hold it. But God is developing you differently. He is building you from the inside out. He is not rushing your elevation, He is reinforcing your foundation. Focus is the filter that separates what is essential from what is irrelevant. When you truly begin to master focus, you stop wasting time. You stop entertaining distractions. You stop negotiating with old patterns. You stop entertaining people who pull you backward. You stop giving your energy to what drains you. You begin to see your life through a different lens. You begin to ask different questions. Does this conversation help my purpose? Does this environment support my growth? Does this habit align with my future? Does this relationship honor my calling? Does this decision move me forward or pull me backward? God elevates those who can answer those questions with honesty and integrity. God elevates those who can say no without guilt. God elevates those who can remain consistent even when no one is watching. God elevates those who understand that discipline is not a punishment. Discipline is protection. Discipline protects your dreams. Discipline protects your purpose. Discipline protects your future. Discipline protects you from becoming your own hindrance. There are seasons when God hides you for the purpose of discipline. He pulls you away from unnecessary exposure so He can refine your character. He removes the crowd so He can strengthen your focus. He silences the noise so you can hear instruction. He delays the elevation so He can sharpen your discernment. And you must understand that this hiding is not rejection. It is preparation. God hides you to mature you. God hides you to strengthen you. God hides you so that when He reveals you, no one can diminish what He has done within you. Elevation requires that you become a master of your own environment. You must master the space you occupy emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. You must become intentional about how you steward your time, your attention, your energy, and your relationships. You must create routines that reinforce your identity. You must establish boundaries that protect your focus. You must cultivate habits that strengthen your discipline. You must train your mind to remain anchored in truth when distractions try to pull you off course. God is shaping you into someone who can be trusted with influence. Someone who can be trusted with responsibility, someone who can be trusted with visibility, someone who can be trusted with authority. And trust is built through discipline. Trust is built through consistency. Trust is built through obedience. This is why God allows challenges. They reveal your discipline. They reveal your focus. They reveal your commitment. They reveal your resilience. They reveal whether you can handle elevation without collapsing under pressure. Your ability to focus is a reflection of your maturity. Your ability to discipline yourself is a reflection of your readiness. Every time you choose purpose over distraction, you become a candidate for elevation. Every time you choose truth over emotion, you become stronger. Every time you choose commitment over comfort, you grow. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you evolve. God is watching how you steward the small things because He is preparing to entrust you with greater things. There are ideas